All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and undecided others. I'm here with my good friend, co-host Dan, and today we're privileged to have Darrel in the office with us. Now, Darrel is an awesome guy that used to be on the bones of his ass, started volunteering with Lifewise, and basically now he's riding a fucking V-rod. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Darrel.
Yeah, hey Six, Dan. Yeah, so prior to Lifewise, I was actually working at James Liston as a night worker there. I think I did that for about 18 months, and I was volunteering for Lifewise at the time, and then they kind of shoulder tapped me, and I managed to get a job and did a mental health and addictions course while I was there.
I did the mental health one. It's really good.
Yeah. If anything, it kind of taught me how to kind of speak that language that they talk in those services. So so I was with Lifewise, I think, including volunteering for a multitude of years, to be honest. And and like Six said, I come from a kind of a background where I've fallen on hard times and had run-ins with the law and this and that, and turn my life around with their support, and it was good to give back and work alongside people like myself, just to try and empower people to make better choices.
Yeah, and I remember going back to that time, and without mentioning names, it was pretty toxic work environment, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Lifewise was.
At the time, and I mean, not saying all of Lifewise, and don't want to mention too many names or specifics, but yeah, it was a toxic environment.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with that. And for myself, going into social services and with Lifewise, so I was kind of a bit of a newbie, and I guess hindsight's a wonderful thing, because looking back, I actually thought it was just normal, maybe in that sector, and it was a terrible environment, to be honest. But heaps of learnings come from that. And saying that, I did work alongside some amazing people.
You were getting people housed. When people were dragging the chain and you were actually getting people housed.
Yeah,
and this was long before the emergency housing type situation.
Yeah, that's right. And I kind of learned that when you're dealing with MSD, and that you need to be kind of you need to be proactively engaging with them and getting people kind of working alongside the other agencies to keep their applications active. Otherwise, they can kind of become dormant. And so I think I housed 150 people in my short time there. So
less than a year.
I think it was about 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months.
Yeah, so and that I really enjoyed that. But in saying that, what I kind of learnt was, you really need to be kind of have good relationships with your clients and stuff, and be able to kind of unravel the stuff, unpack the stuff that kind of led them to being homeless, and actually come into your service and support them in making better choices, rather than just taking people off the street and giving them housing where they're just taking problems into that area. So
what's your main outcome from that experience? What's your main learning?
My main outcome from that, it was an amazing experience, to be honest, and sadly I'm not part of that environment anymore. What I can say is that the pay is really terrible, and and the work rate is really hard. It's very taxing. You can burn out. I possibly experienced a bit of that, but the main thing I could take away from it is just working alongside some amazing professionals, not just with different agencies and this and that, because they are out there. And so for me, it was I kind of look at it like social services is a huge environment, but the number of people that are actually doing the stuff that has positive outcomes is very few, but kudos to them.
What's your takeaway from that experience?
What do I take away from that? I just take away from that is that, like, trying to be a better person in your own life and motivate yourself to make better choices daily, and you've got to be, I'm a believer that hurt people, and I was possibly one of those people as well. So, I went in there, I got thrown in the deep end, and I might have achieved this and achieved that as well. But I think that my main take off from that is that you have to be integral with what you do. You can't just go to work and go home and put on a different hat. You've got to be integral in what you do and what you preach.
But you had like the lived experience to help these people, right? Like, you're not coming from somewhere totally arbitrary that they can't relate to.
Yeah, that's right. I've got lived experience. I've been to prison, and I've fallen on hard times. I wouldn't say that I've been a rough sleeper myself.
But you were pretty unstable. I mean, when I first met you, you're pretty unstable.
Oh yeah, I was totally unstable. But I wasn't a chronic rough sleeper, so to speak. There were other stuff going on why I just didn't want to be located.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Like, it was an amazing journey, like I said. And yeah, I'd fallen on hard times, and it was a new experience for me. Trying to navigate services to get like just the essential.
Right. What is the process to get somebody housed once you start on that path with them?
Pete, are you listening?
So the process is like, well, if you have an assessment, like, with MSD, work and income.
What's MSD?
Ministry of Social Development.
Okay.
So, you'll go in there and you'll sit with their case manager and just go through their application. I know by memory that there's 5 categories that they refer to: availability, sustainability, eligibility. I can't remember what the other two are offhand, but they have ratings on those. I think it's 5 points for each one. The total amount is 20, so you can be... So when the assessment's done, he's ticking boxes, the case manager, and ideally you want to be getting a 20 score, and from there, like I said, so getting people housed, I used to ring up their 0800 number every Monday morning, first thing, and just go through each of my clients. I think I had about 30 or 40 at the time, at any one time, and just try and keep their applications active and just push to have them housed and stuff. And yeah, that's it.
It worked.
yeah, it did.
And now you're living in where'd you say?
Otio Valley, love the place.
Otio Valley.
Yeah, just on the outskirts of Albany there.
And you've been stably employed?
I'm in stable employment.
Well, you don't buy a V-Rod if you're not, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Got a Harley out there.
Yeah, so we've got a contract with the employer that I'm with, and we contract to Fonterra, so we just deliver milk products between Fonterra factories around the North Island, and I love the job,
Yeah.
But in saying that, and the money's decent, and that's what I mean. It's like I take my hat off to the people working in social services, because I do know how hard they work, and at times I don't know so much now, but I feel that a lot of them are quite underpaid. Like yourself, Six.
Paid? What's that?
Well, come on.
I've forgotten what Kate Shepherd looks like. Going back to your time with Lifewise at Merge Cafe, and we briefly spoke about the work environment, the unpleasant work environment, but what was the catalyst for your resignation?
Well, that's getting a bit dark.
I know.
I think you know what that was. There was.
I know.
Well, let's just say there was. So there was several. It wasn't just myself. It was someone who I respected dearly, who was working in there, who's still in the industry, and they're amazing social worker, and they resigned. And it was just like you said, Six. It was an unhealthy environment. And I kind of feel that it had become more around the funding than it was about the people themselves. And I do feel that some of the clientele that they come and write stories and take photos and all this and that, and I feel like that they got exploited a little bit. So with my own resignation, I attended that, and and here we are. I mean, I think there was 3 of us that left at the time. So
where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
For myself, Six, I've kind of come to the realisation that in life, a lot of us, we're out there and we're just pursuing pleasures. whether it's trauma related or whatever. Just but I'm at the stage of my life now where I'm just pursuing peace.
Yeah.
And I'm putting the energies just towards that.
Peace.
So, yeah, exactly.
What would be your advice to your younger self? If you could go back 20 years and say, Darrel, this is what you need to do.
For myself, I got raised in a broken home. It was quite it was a bit of a toxic environment. There wasn't any mentors with me growing up, so it's a bit of a hard one, because if you're a bit of a loner and you don't have those natural supports around you, you just become a product of your environment. But what I'd do is say to myself, the advice would be get an education and just stay motivated, surround yourself with good people, and when I say good people, I'm not talking about successful people. I'm just talking about
Positive people.
People with integrity and people who have got your back and this and that, because those are the people that are going to be there at the end, or when times are hard.
What was your education like?
Well, I'd done the course that you just did. Prior to that, 6, so I just went to school to eat lunch, but I was actually a ward of the state as well. So,
right.
I've kind of grown up in that environment, and
So I'm just reading between the lines. Was there bitterness? Was there anger when you were a younger fellow?
Oh, absolutely. It's like it's only a few years ago I was seeing Beth St. Clair just down the road there, and she's a psychologist regarding the Ward of the State stuff. I got asked to speak on the Royal Commission, but I found it because I've been kind of battling that in the last 6-7 years, trying to, that inner child trauma or whatever, and but at the end of the day, I just I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So I just it was just too painful to bring all that stuff up constantly. I wasn't getting anywhere. So I've just tried to better myself. I don't know if I've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No,
but, the Ward of the State, does that mean you go into orphanage?
Yeah. So Ward of the State is a couple of guys turn up for myself at your house, and these white long coats.
Right.
Yeah, and pretty much just uplifted me, took me into social welfare. That was social welfare at the time, and just was put into boys' homes.
How old were you then?
I think I was about 10.
That must have been terrifying.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a pleasant experience. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. And so and looking back, I think my mum realised, once she'd signed me over or whatever the process was, that it's not like she can just come and get me out. Although she did come and visit. Yeah, I hated it, but it is what it is.
What's your relationship like with your family?
Oh yeah, it's not too bad, but it's like any relationship, it's like it can be a little bit up and down at times. Like I'm one of these people that tend to if people are giving me negativity and all that sort of stuff, be it family or otherwise, then I'll block them and stuff, And but with family, I will try and reach out to them later on, and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you suffer from any depression or anxiety or any of these issues now?
Absolutely, and if you asked me that when I was working at Lifewise, I'd probably not really, my ego would take over, and I will, I'd try and man up on that, but. Absolutely. I mean, I suffer from depression, and I don't have the answers to coping with it. But what I know is it comes in waves. I don't know if it's going to be with me forever, but it feels like it has. Yeah. And that's the main thing for me when it comes to depression. It's like it comes in waves. Some days are really bad.
Yeah.
And and other days I'm just trying to push on through. And
the one thing I know about depression is that good night's sleep, a healthy diet, and a bit of exercise won't cure depression, but it'll give you a fighting chance.
That's right.
Yep. And a bit of sobriety.
And a bit of writing. Yeah, I'm sober, drug-free, and, it hasn't always been the case. I could do with
some free drugs. So what do you get out of driving the big K-dubs?
What do you get out of it? Well, what you don't get out of it is lots of people in your face kicking the cafe doors in, like up at Merge, and just the constant pressure of like
pecked to death by ducks.
Yeah, and it's just a revolving cycle, and it's good to get away from that, so I can go to work do my job and then go home and just switch
Chill.
off.
You got good sound systems in those trucks?
Oh, those Kenworths are pretty noisy and they're pretty rattly, eh? But they hold the road well.
You're going to be listening to music if you're driving 14 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Or podcasts, perhaps?
That's right.
Yeah,
You better hear
podcast.
yourself on this.
Oh, I listen to a lot of ZB myself.
Yeah,
Bit of a fan.
yeah. I like national radio myself. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good shit out there, including the K-Road Chronicle on iTunes and Spotify, and support us on Patreon if you like what we're doing. A couple of dollars a month makes a big difference. Means we can bring you the voices of Karangahape Road.
Yeah, and I can just add to that, I've known Six a number of years, and I do feel that, some funding should come your way because you're an icon around here. And
I know, it's like meant to be fame and fortune.
That's right.
I got the fame bit. Where's the fortune bit?
Yeah, so, Six has got that lived experience, and the thing is, you know us, and and there's a lot of people out there, they need to be surrounded with people that they can trust.
Well, the reason I started the Chronicle was because I was homeless myself, and as a journalist, I couldn't find any work. So I realised that our community deserved a voice, and it wasn't getting represented well in mainstream media. I mean, every time you hear about Indigenous issues, it's usually because somebody's getting beaten up or robbed or stolen from, and yet there's a lot of really good news stories too about, like Dave Latelli with Butterbean Motivation, and
yeah, he's great.
He's fantastic. I noticed they've got a Butterbean Motivation down in Tokoroa.
Yeah, they've got a food bank down there, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And his father works for the Grace Foundation.
Grace Foundation.
I did a little bit of work alongside him with Lifewise. So.
Yeah, well, the Grace Foundation quite often go around the streets giving out hangi meals. So we have to talk to them and get them on the show sometime.
Yeah, I had one of those hangi meals.
They're good, eh?
Yeah.
And there you go, Six. You can tear it all up. You're like the glue, but that holds it all together around here.
Not as stinky as the glue though. But yeah, I mean, every community should have a something like the Chronicle, something like me. Is there anything you'd like to say to all those guys that might be going, oh, that's Darrel, he helped me out back then, or
All I can say is I know a lot of the services these days they're client led. And while that might be good and well, what my own feelings on that is that there needs to be buy-in from the clients as well. There's only like a certain amount of housing available, so it can't be a lifetime choice. If people are getting housed and that's great, but they need to also be addressing the issues, to make so that they can be people in that in society themselves and
independent.
And not reliant on the state, so to speak. And I do think when it comes to like social housing, this and that, it should only be for the most vulnerable, women and children, those with mental health issues, this and that, and the motel accommodation, emergency accommodation, it's just ridiculous. That's my thoughts on it.
How do you feel when you walk down the street as a Māori and see that 95% of our homeless population are Māori? The beggars we see on the street are predominantly Māori. The short answer is colonisation, but it's still heartbreaking. How do we re-energise people, give people their mana back?
Yeah, so I don't know. I just feel like I grew up in the 70s, and I just feel like today society has lost its moral compass in a sense. We're not like tightly woven together. A lot of the respect isn't there from generation to generation.
Yeah, it's like there's been this deconstruction of our social networks,
and it's almost become like a dog eat dog. Yeah. Every man for himself. It's kind of a society. Yeah. So I don't know if it's a Māori thing or what, but I just think as a society we don't respect each other like we did back in when I was a child.
Yeah. And K Road seems like that too.
Oh, I love K Road. It's such a eclectic, community here. And,
where's your go-to place? Are you going to go out?
I was just there across the road getting coffee.
Oh, the V Bar. Nope, not allowed to say that.
I'll bleep it out. I thought they sponsored you.
No, bastards banned me because I criticised their security.
Oh, shit. Yeah. How did you first find K Road, Darrel?
How did I first find K Road? So I kind of gravitated here when I got out of prison, and oh, actually, no, it was before I went to prison, yeah. So I kind of gravitated towards the city. It took me about 2 weeks to find out that they had a night shelter down near Darrel Street run by Lifewise. And long story short, so, Cairo's just somewhere I really enjoy, is like in Auckland Central. It's I can't, I wouldn't say it's the same at night, but in the daytime it's an amazing place, It's my favourite part of the city, to be honest.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but can I ask why you went to jail?
Why I went to jail? So I went to prison for some drug offences. I was growing hydroponic weed indoors, trying to make some coin. Yeah. And what happened was, so I actually owned a house down the line at the time, and so without naming names, I wasn't living down there, and I was living in Auckland, and I'd gone down there and I was visiting, and the police, they were coming up the driveway over the fence. They know I didn't live there, but they charged me for it, and so my fingerprints were on the gear.
Do you reckon you'd go to jail for that today, considering the climate's changed quite a lot?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because
the government's the one selling the weed now,
Yeah, that's right.
And hydroponic systems set up.
Well, I see a lot of violent offenders not going to prison for stuff, and I just think the justice system's all a little bit askew, to be fair.
Well, it was interesting to hear I can't remember his name, the Minister of Police the other day on TV was talking about, how police they've got to stop using the police as our front line for mental health. And we see it every day on the street that a lot of these supposed criminal issues are actually mental health issues. And I don't think the police should or can deal with mental health issues. There almost needs to be like a mental health ambulance.
What about the Māori wardens? I haven't seen them around for a while.
They're back out. They're doing really well. They're good. They've recently been given access to the old janitor's cottage in Myers Park. They generally come out in the evenings. I think they're a good option.
Yeah.
And they, more funding for the Māori wardens would be great.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think more funding and support for people like yourself, so it's like just generally doing, the people that are at the coalface on a daily basis, not people that are just coming to the city and working. They go home on a Friday. These people have got issues around the city and that, like they're disenfranchised every day.
To me, I think we need more safe spaces, more marae type spaces. I don't want to say iwi focused because it shouldn't all be about Māori either, but it should be spaces that are safe spaces where do you go during the day? I mean, maybe you hang out at Lifewise or the Auckland City Library, but there's no centralised place,
hub
where you can go. You can talk to people, you can learn skills.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a safe environment.
Merge Cafe do a great job of what they are doing, but it's only till 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
What about at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly.
It's like, why couldn't we have a round-the-clock kind of service? And the other thing that does kind of annoy me about Merge Cafe is they don't know whether they're a charity or a business. 1 minute they want everything for free, and the next minute they're a business. It's like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Why can't they open later?
Well, I don't know, myself.
Yeah, well,
but
you're not the person to ask.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, it's like these NGOs get a lot of funding, and so why can't funding kind of be given to those ideas?
I see a lot of funding getting wasted, though.
Oh, definitely.
Well, $42,000 for Afina.net. Does anybody go to it? Has it ever been updated since I did some updates last year?
Afina.net.
Afina.net is meant to be a website designed to help homeless people, but they put $42,000 into it. There's been no marketing done for it. There's been very little maintenance done to it, and a lot of the information is just outdated and wrong. And when the person that we both know, set it up, I said, it's got to be a living document. It's not just something you put up there, bang, and job done. It's got to be consistently updated.
Oh, like I said earlier, Six, I believe that, social services needs overhauling and it needs rebuilding from the ground up, and essential services need to be provided where it needs to happen. There needs to be funding at the coal face. There also needs to be buy-in from the clients.
Yeah.
People need to be working together. Otherwise, you're just masking problems. And while you're being funded to do it, you're managing it. You're not looking at solving issues. You know what I mean?
And I see a lot of the time, you've got these basically corporations masquerading as charities, with middle-aged white men at the top of the table, telling everybody else what we're going to do, how we're going to solve these problems, when you need the homeless, the people, the benefactors at that table saying, stop telling people what they need and listen to what they need. Listen to what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Stop trying to solve problems that don't exist.
Well, that's just it. What if I said, maybe they don't want to solve problems, because let's be honest, like poverty and homelessness, it's almost like an industry.
It is an industry.
It's like there's millions at stake. There's careers to be had.
Yeah.
With the problem being poverty and homelessness, it's like, and mental health. It's like it's become like a thriving industry to work in.
It totally
a thriving
is.
business. There's funding to be gained.
This guy that needs help is on the bones of his ass, can't afford food, getting advice from somebody on over $100,000 a year who gets to go home and live in their nice, beautiful house. And that's where I think having that experience is really valuable when you're working with vulnerable people.
Yeah. But in saying that, I have to take my hat off to the Auckland City Mission, because they've always been kind of that focus. They're open, 7 days a week and this and that, and they do amazing work. So
and don't get me wrong, we're not saying Lifewise or the Auckland City Mission or the Salvation Army or all these places are dodgy. What I'm saying is that there are some core values that maybe need to be addressed, and there are also some great people in these organisations, like you say, working very hard for very little money.
I agree with that. Totally.
You don't think you'll go back to social work?
So Auckland's such an expensive place. These days. I probably haven't got the time to do it. To be honest, I'm making my ends meet, saving money. I'm earning.
You paid your dues.
I'm earning more money than I think social workers get. To be honest.
Truckies get pretty good money though, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on $40 an hour. So,
hey, but I mean, I feel like we're kind of getting to that wrapping up point, and I want to just thank you very, very much for taking your time out of your day. Do you have any last comments?
Any last comments?
Apart from obviously support K Road Chronicle on Patreon.
Absolutely. Like I said, I love K Road. There's always, I've been coming to K Road like since I've been in Auckland for the last 25 years, and the same problems tend to exist from one year to the next, and it's just good to see that there's people around like yourself, Six, still holding it down, representing.
I wouldn't trust me to drive a truck.
But what I would say is that help these people at the coalface, no matter if they work for an agency, a government agency or whatever, or they're just community leaders like yourself, and get them behind them and and get to know, come and have a look at the problems that do exist.
I mean, we've been a bit critical today on some of the services that in reality are providing really valuable services to our communities. And I just want to say it's easy to stand on the sidelines and criticise, but when you're at the coal front, sometimes you've got to compromise. Sometimes you just got to do the best you can on the day. K Road could be a model community for how we can better provide services for our people.
And maybe this could be the makings of that hub.
Totally.
Right.
And it shouldn't be about Māori, Pākehā, Asian, Arabic. It's people being people.
Yeah, it should be about need.
Yeah, totally.
Ka pai.
Ka pai.
Ka pai.
Dan, any last words?
Thank you. Good to meet you, Darrel.
Yeah, you too, Dan, and to the both of you, thank you very much, and I've enjoyed it, and always happy to help out a just and good cause. Ka
Cheers,
pai.
mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ora.
Can I take the bike for a ride?
That was awesome. That was awesome.